Hey people, hope you're doing well. I'm Hannah. Thanks for being here. I've just come on to do a video that's hopefully quite short, but I might do a part 2 later if something else comes up. But it's just about worthiness generally, and how there's no point. Like if you're an A player and you're in a room with like D or E players, they're never going to see your worth. Like, you're never going to be treated as an A player. You need to be in the right room to be treated and able to show up, as your best. If you're constantly being pushed into a situation like what I've been done because of all of this doxing and etc., that's pushing you down into arenas where you just don't fit. Nothing is going to ever be equal there. You're always going to be butting heads and like trying to argue with brick walls and that sort of thing, which is just not really conducive to any form of reasonable growth or any sort of progress. And I just want to make that point, really, because I've had to live with that all my life as a Palestinian, and it wasn't even just in situations that are just more obviously about the persecution of Palestinians. It happened in like workplaces as well. So like when I worked in the NHS, I worked as a commissioner in neuroscience services, which I've talked about on this channel in other videos before. And so it was a very niche area. I was working in Salford for 10 years, 10 and a half, 11. Yeah, 10 and a half, 11 years before they kicked me out. Why did they kick me out? Because I was negotiating my worth. The whole time I was there, I was bullied because I knew my worth, and they didn't want to treat me as if I was worthy of it. And by the time they kicked me out, it got to 10 years of service, which is a very long time. And I'd developed, obviously, I was working in a specialist area, and I developed a lot. I was always learning for myself and always training for myself. The job never existed before I had it, and I built everything about it. And the whole time they were threatened by me. I was always in disciplinaries that never had any evidence. I was never allowed to know who the accuser was or anything like that. It was all very, very shady and illegal. A bit like yesterday's video when I was talking about the military courts. Like, you have to know who your accusers are and everything. I was never allowed to know who was doing all of these fake reports on me and stuff like that. But the managers were always kept me in disciplinaries, but I never really was doing anything like the other members of staff. And I just kept myself to myself. Even when I first started, like the manager that I had when I first started, she was a consultant physio, and she'd been in the NHS for a long, long time, like decades, like maybe 3 decades, maybe 4. So she'd got a lot of experience, but and I'm not like throwing shade on like people who've got to consultant level and stuff, but if she took 4 decades to get to her pay grade, that's her journey. It's not mine. I came from a biomedical science background. I had specialist neuroscience knowledge. It's a completely different thingy. And also, I've always been somebody who invested in myself, who didn't go out and waste a lot of time. And I was always very I just don't think you can judge me compared to like people who grow up in different households that watch a lot of TV. And I never really watched a lot of TV. I read books. I did lots of things, other things, like be outside, and like I was just a different child, and I did different things with my life all my life. I didn't really waste my time being influenced to be lazy. And and she drank like one bottle of wine like every night, which I never did. I've never done that. Like, so that makes you slow. So if people do that sort of thing, it makes you slow. I never did that. Like, people used to shit on me for training. People used to make fun of me for wearing lycra, like coming in before I had the shower, having lycra on. People used to do all sorts of things, but that was me. So like, what I'm trying to say is, like, you can even go and look at the pay scale for the NHS. Like, somebody who's got lots of experience, and 10 years is loads. 10 years is like a considerable amount of experience of like public service, and has special in the specialist area, which I did. They demand a pay grade, and when they kicked me out, I'd basically taken the region, it was Salford as a locality, but there were some parts of it that could have like expanded to regional. I made a bid and took like 3 specialties, and we did like some pilot work for a national project, and we had to present nationally and stuff. And so then it became obvious that I was contributing to national policy, which I was doing before, which they just couldn't they could avoid and like try and make out that I wasn't doing that and like not recognize it. But then I got an award for the work that I did for like partnership working and like building teams and things like that. I can't remember exactly what the award was, but I got some sort of recognition. And then after that, when I basically had like, I was advocating for myself about my worth, that's when they started the ball rolling to demonize me. The GP clinical lead who I'd worked with for, by that point, maybe 5 or 6 years, called me feral, said that I went feral. But really the issue was, which they knew all along, but I didn't know until like obviously later down my career trajectory, is that the pay scale that my skills and knowledge and everything that I came with demanded was exactly the same as the head of the team. So that's what became obvious. And then and they basically treated me like that because they realized and they shot themselves and that I was going to sue them. But I didn't sue them. I still have got a case for suing them. Because what they did was completely awful. Because there was nobody like me in the NHS. Nobody. I was very rare. Like, it's very rare to have someone in commissioning that's got a scientific background, purely in like improvement, service design and redesign, innovation, and like transformational change. And like I did work in other specialty areas as well, across like all the different levels of care. So like primary, community, secondary, urgent, non-urgent, specialist. Like I literally worked and also worked across the charity sector, because people with neurological conditions, they access everything. Like, so because obviously their needs are very complex. So, but that by that point, even after all the terrorism and everything I suffered, and all the bullying and everything, when I got to that stage in my career, that's what they did. The whole time, up to that point as well, I'd always be acting up, but they'd always put a manager, like a foreign manager from somewhere else, that didn't know anything about what I was doing. I've spoken about this before. They'd put them in place, and then they would never be able to do anything to support me. They were just like leeches. So we'd never have a relationship, because they couldn't really offer anything. They were just taking, and like when you know your worth, you don't really deal with that. And then they go and spread rumours and gossip and everything like that. But it's just that you know that you just don't engage with people like that. You don't engage with people who have that attitude towards you, or that's all they can offer you. And so people need to realise that people like me, we know our worth, and we know the arenas where we should invest our energy to negotiate or not to negotiate. And that's facts. When you're just pushed into always situations where you're in disciplinaries, you kind of have to do it's hard to not do the process. They never did the process because they were always never presenting any evidence of anything that I actually did. They just wanted to keep it going and going and going. And then it was even actually at the end, the union who just finished it off and like helped them get me out without any proper legal process or anything. Like, it wasn't even a proper settlement or anything. It was all illegal. The whole thing was illegal. The way I was treated the whole time was illegal. And that's the thanks I got for everything I did to build that up. And they've never replaced me since. So for 6 years or something that I've been gone, they've never had anyone like me since. They've never been able to have anyone that did what I did. And everything's been collapsing. And I'm not saying that to like brag or anything. I'm saying that like the people in those situations who are arrogant and think that they can get away with that bullshit, they need to realize that it's them that should have realized people like me, the worth that we had. Because I did a lot in my spare time, because I don't waste time. I was always learning and bringing it back to the job, because there was no blueprint or anything for that job. I was the first person to ever have it, and no one's ever had it since. So and they were just hell-bent on bullying me. That's what they invested their time and energy on. Like, they wanted me to carry everything, including being bullied and everything, and shoulder all that burden. And it's only now in my life that I've got to the stage where I'm just like, no, I'm not carrying that. They need to understand that they're the ones that have to demonstrate their worth to people like me about why we should stay and what. And in the end, it got to the point, it was in my body. Like, I got burnt out, like I got sick. And that's when I knew, like, it didn't matter how much I changed my diet, how much yoga I did, how much meditation I did. I was spending so many hours doing things like as a coping mechanism to try and balance all the bullying, that I was like, that's not really a life for me. I should not have to do all of this stuff to balance out what I have to endure there. That's not a life. But it doesn't take away from the fact that I still I picked that niche. Like, I built work towards it and built it up and everything, and it just wasn't valued. It really wasn't valued at all. The people who knew nothing, like a little bit of nothing about nothing, they got treated like amazing because their face fit. My face didn't fit. Like I said, like, I got someone who was supposed to be like my closest working partnership, me as non-clinical and them as clinical. They called me feral for standing up for my worth, and that needs to be actually acknowledged. That it's not that we don't know how to negotiate, it's that the response to us negotiating is always violence. Like, we don't deserve to have what we are worth. And all of these people, it's like in Palestine, with Shitrail, always calls us terrorists instead of to say, oh, you don't negotiate with terrorists. And then every single negotiation, we have to make many concessions, and always be on a different playing field. They want us to believe different things about what we actually know about ourselves. We know we are the originators of all the funds, of all the assets. We know we are the owners. We know we are the guarantors. We know we are the trustees and the beneficiaries. And they want us to believe that we're just slaves, and they engineer or manufacture all these situations to put us in a slavery situation because of the occupation, which is false. They are the criminals who have to give everything back for 108 years of crimes. You can't negotiate with someone truly unless there is actual equity. That's real partnership. You can't have partnership with somebody who wants to engineer and manufacture conditions to put you however many places below, always, and expect you to act like you are, when we know we're not. We have always known we're not, but we have always expected to be rational and reasonable towards these people who are just not partners for us. They have shown time and time again they don't know anything about partnership or anything about parity or esteem or anything about equity. They don't care. They just want to dominate. They just want to dominate, and they just want to own what is not theirs to own. We belong to God. Everything we have is from God, and we are the owners. They will never be the owners. They have to return everything they stole. They have to pay for the damages. That is the right way around. That is the direction of travel. That is the shift. Once the lid's been lifted off, it cannot be unlifted. Like, at the end of the day, like I said in like one of my recent other videos, they killed my granddad, but we're still here. We know the truth. The truth is in us. The truth is in our DNA. You can't. That's why they're killing all the children, because they don't want anyone to grow up and because we're still here. We're still here, trying to get all of these fake contracts off us, get rid of all these fake binds and break all these curses that have been put on our lives. And people will continue to do that, but it's not just us now. It's people around the world who are speaking up for us. And so people need to stop looking at us as if we don't know our worth and we don't know how to negotiate or we don't know how to play ball. No, it's not that. It's that we remove ourselves from situations that don't see us as equal partners, or don't want to treat us as we do have equal rights, and that we do have parity, and we aren't worthy of partnership. Why should we entertain that? If you want to project that onto us, you need to look inside yourself as to what is wrong with you. Those people who I worked with and spent the most amount of time than anyone else for 10 years of my life, what they did to me day in, day out to terrorize me, why they made that their business to terrorize me like that, despite everything that I did for the region and for the local, region and national, for people with neurological conditions. Like, why what is wrong with you? Like, it's up to them to know what they have when they have it, and it's up to them to see value. They don't treat us like we have any value at all when we know our value. Why should we entertain anyone that doesn't know our value? It's stupid. It's ridiculously stupid. And at the end of the day, negotiations are only worthwhile if it is actually two people who recognise each other as people, treat each other with respect, dignity, and actually want win-win situations. Manufactured situations are just not going to work. Like that stupid Gaza plan is going to the UN today, and everyone can see like how ridiculous it is. That is just crimes. That is inheritance fraud, mortgage fraud, every kind of financial fraud you can think of, embezzlement, racketeering, identity fraud, insurance fraud, forgery, perjury, legal fraud. I don't know how much fraud you can think of. They don't own any of it. They are not anything to do with the land, and they're trying to engineer a situation where they are the beneficiaries and all the guarantors and everything. And we know our worth. We know who we are. We know we're the owners. So it's everybody else that needs to catch up. And that's all. You need to catch up. You should be presenting why you're worthy of being in our presence, and why you're worthy of having us, or why you're worthy of being in partnership with us. We deserve to have partnerships that are for us, not always continually be made to believe that we have to work with these charlatans, these sharks. We've learned to avoid sharks. We don't want to work with sharks. So it's the people who consistently try and insist that you have to work with sharks. No, we've already been through the tests to know to just avoid them in the first place. That's what wise people do. We don't try and negotiate with sharks anymore. We just know our position. We say our position, and we see what you do. God sees what you do as well, how you treat us. And judgment is here. Judgment doesn't just happen in death, it happens in life. Judgment is here. And that's it. And people need to realise that. People need to realise that justice is here, judgment is here, and they can't run away. It doesn't matter how much they try. We know that we are sovereign beings. We know our sovereignty. We know it. It's in our, we embody it. We know those truths. We know the sovereign truths, and we take them wherever we go. We bring them for everyone's benefit. So if you don't value that, there's something wrong with you. That's all I've got time for in this video, but if something else comes up on this topic, I will do a part 2 later on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.